Hello and welcome to D&D with High School Students presents the B Team. I am here with dun 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 Jennie and Jordan. Notice how every time I just use a different 80s theme song to introduce you guys. As we might remember from the rather adventurous episode 10, you guys met a nice family. The kind of older father figure of the family, Medvin, and his younger brother John, who was going to pledge his life to the monastery at Kadimkikala. And they were traveling with you. You guys defeated a nasty troll that seemed to be out of place. Then the next day you picked up your pace and continued along through the wilds when you discovered a strange dome-like mound of dirt with grass, and at the very top of it was kind of a rock sort of material, and yet not a bouldery rock, something that was more smoothed and seemingly man-made. At which time, one of you with a very strong bang happened to tap the dome a little too hard, and you both fell, plummeting many feet through the air. How many feet, you ask? 4d6 worth of feet.
Nice.
Go ahead and roll the damage, girls.
There we go.
For those following at home, this is called falling damage. For every 10 feet that a character falls, it's a d6 worth of damage.
See, now I'm out here rolling pure sixes. Just
One.
sixes.
Pain.
I literally rolled 3 sixes as well. This is
10.
cute.
So how much did
20.
you take, Jordan?
23 points of damage.
Ouch.
13.
Ouch. Maybe
Oh,
it's
maybe you're-
because as a Goliath, you're just,
Wait.
gravity and
Oh,
weight.
wait. Can I interject something really quick?
Sure.
I do have a feat because I'm a Goliath called Stone's Endurance, which says when you take damage, you can use your reaction to roll a d12 plus your con modifier and reduce the damage taken.
That's a smart move. You might
Nice.
want to do that.
I might want to do that. Okay. D12 plus 1.
Hey,
7.
there you go.
All right.
Oh, is that a 9?
Is that a 9 or a 7? I
Is
don't
the
know.
dot at the bottom? That's
Oh.
a 9.
Nice.
So that's 10. Well, that's
Okay.
very
so then
beneficial.
so then we both took 13. There we go.
Okay.
I like how
So,
you pencil after.
you guys literally fall just more than 40 feet
Thanks, Chief.
into darkness. And you land not in a nice, mossy bed or on some sand. No, you land on crumbled rock and stone. You're scraped up, bruised. Your spleen might be broken. No one knows. But you have suffered pain as you've fallen. Now, who amongst you can see in the dark?
Me? You still have a lantern if you wanted to try to light it.
Yes.
I could pull it out, yeah.
You know what? Roll a d6. If you roll a 1, your lantern's broken.
Here we go.
Please roll 1. Please. Oh, okay. All right.
That's close.
So, Jenny, you, after kind of the stars in your eyes fade from the amount of pain that you just took, first of all, you see Arya next to you, and she's still conscious but groaning in pain. You look around, and you are in some kind of a large chamber that looks like it was man-made, but has seen a lot of deterioration over time. There are toppled columns, and around where the columns toppled, there are some walls that have crumbled where earth is spilling in. But you notice some of the columns are intact, and as you look up, you notice that the 4 central columns are in fact what is holding the ground above from collapsing into this chamber completely. And you can see now, as you look up, that this room, this very man-made room, has a domed ceiling, which is what you fell through. The stonework is all very old, of a very old and kind of ancient style, the likes of which you have not ever really seen in this area. So that's your initial kind of perception around the room. Arya, you're in darkness. The only thing that you see is a light distantly above, a good 40 feet above you.
Okay. I'll light my lantern then.
Okay, you take a moment, you get it going, and as your lantern illuminates, you could see pretty evenly. It provides you with enough light in your immediate area to see these columns that surround you, the rubble that you're sitting on. But then you can kind of, as you start scanning around the perimeter of the room, you notice, similarly to what I was describing, this old stonework where there are huge, like kind of keystone blocks in place, massive blocks. A lot of this is crumbled, particularly over to what you would estimate to be the western wall. Some of this is crumbled. You see like evidence of like erosion and water that has seeped in over time. There's roots growing through deep down. But there's also a very musty smell, as if this space has not had any fresh air in who knows how long. So that's where you guys find yourselves.
Okay. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm still kicking. How are you?
Could be better. Do we see any doors? Or
You see two columns to the south of you that seem to have once been the supports for maybe an archway, but that has crumbled in and backfilled. So whatever was beyond this seems to have backfilled. So there's a lot of rock and soil.
I'd say there doesn't seem like a lot of ways out here. I think we should go up to it, try to see if we can get anything past it.
okay. Do we want to like take turns? We can. This might take a while. Those are some pretty big rocks. We
Yeah.
can always take turns digging. I don't see any other ways out of here.
What are you, so you stand up and walk over there?
Yeah.
Sure.
Both of you go ahead and make perception rolls. As you approach, and more so now because you're closer, the light from your lantern is kind of illuminating a little more of the detail.
19.
2.
Okay. So you're just so, like, almost intimidated by the vast quantity of rock and soil. You're, like, staring at that. And you kind of, like, flash your lantern as you're walking closer, and you see inscriptions carved into some of the stones. Now, a lot of it is faded. Some of the stones have cracked and fallen off, and you can't really read the whole thing, but there's a lot of symbols there.
Do we recognize any of them?
What languages do you know?
I know Common, Giant, and Draconic.
These do not seem to be familiar to you.
What about you?
I know Common, Celestial, and Abyssal.
Also, not familiar to you. The symbols, very old, very, carved into the stones, almost seem to be some kind of signage pointing to whatever lay beyond this space. But you cannot decipher them.
Should we just dig?
Sure, we can try pulling some of the bigger pieces out first, see what we can uncover.
Alright. We'll both try to pull some just of the rocks at the front.
Okay.
See if we can get them out.
Are you guys basically just digging in by hand? Are you using any tools? Any
Do you have any tools?
particular strategies for?
Do you have any
Mostly
tools to dig, or
No.
just go with your hands?
Mostly just trying to pull out more of the solid pieces first and then like digging whatever's around.
Okay. So you guys spend at least a half an hour just excavating the big pieces. Where are you putting them? Like, what's your strategy? Like, how are you excavating?
Just piling them up back in the center where we fell.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you guys actually put quite a lot of stuff there, building up that pile. You begin noticing that as you're taking some of the bigger blocks off after about a half an hour, there's towards the top of the pile, you kind of make a breakthrough in a sense, and you can kind of see that there's some kind of cavern beyond this. When you shine your light in, you notice that this cavern is also, there are parts of it that are crumbled in, but beyond like 30 feet you can't see because it seems to turn.
Okay. Do we just want to keep digging?
Yeah, it doesn't seem any other way we could get out.
Okay.
Okay. You spend another half an hour, and you've now excavated enough. And mind you, that sometimes when you excavate the soil, more fills in. So you're kind of frustrated as you're, making progress, and then, something else crumbles. After about an hour total, though, you've gotten pretty much big enough of an opening to be able to crawl to the top and then crawl down into the adjacent space. And just about at that point, you hear a voice from above. It's like, hello? Hello? Are you, Capella? Are you down there? Can you hear me?
So I want to go back up and
Okay, so you look up and you see like a couple heads like leaning over the space that broke open. They're like, can you hear me? It is I, Medvin. Are you there?
I want to shout back up and I say, we are alive, we are fine. It seems we've fallen into some dark hole of some sort, but we are working on getting out.
We can lower a rope. Give us a moment to tie it off. You hear like scrambling above, and then you see they're not up there. About 5 minutes later, a rope falls down, and you see Medvin's head appear overhead. He's like, we've tied off the rope to a tree nearby. My brother John and I can pull if one of you at a time wants to climb. We can help.
Do we want to go back up?
And I think, whatever here, I still, even with the damage, still don't know if we should just leave whatever this is here. This seems very mysterious. Very
I still want to
unsafe.
continue seeing what's in here.
If the people leave, if they leave the rope tied to something that is around there, they could continue on, and after, we can hoist ourselves up.
Yeah, we could do that if they just want to leave the rope for us and continue going.
Alright, so I go back to the hole and I shout back like, Medvin, we have been looking around and whatever down here is dangerous. If it's alright with you, is the rope tied to something that is natural around there?
Yes, we found a large tree.
Alright, if you may continue on, if you leave the rope tied down, when we are done making sure this is a safe area and there are no dangers here, we will hoist ourselves back up.
There's a brief pause, and then you hear Medvin just yell down. He's like, we are concerned about safety up here as well. We'll just wait for you. We'll wait up here. The road could be treacherous. What if there are trolls?
That is no problem.
We will wait here.
Alright.
Do you need anything?
I turn there and it's like, is there anything that they might have up there we could need?
Some food, maybe? That's all I can think of. I think we have everything.
Anything that would be in your backpack, you guys have on you.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
if it was something that you would have had with your horses, that'd be different.
Throw down my horse now.
No, I think we shouldn't be in here for too long to need a whole bag of
Yeah,
food.
alright. I think we're fine.
I see. No, that is all. But thank you. It will be up in a matter of time.
We'll wait here. All right. So, you guys have cleared enough at the top that you can actually see just beyond. There's more rubble, but you kind of can climb over and around it.
Before we go, should we stop and rest? Because I don't know what's continuing on this chamber, and we just dug for an hour straight, and we fell and probably broke some bones.
Yes, maybe just before we go any deeper in, and since we know here if anything too bad happens, we can go up maybe just a short.
We'll just take a short rest.
Down here?
Yeah,
Okay.
before we go in.
All right, you do. You take a little bit of time to clean up the scrapes and cuts that you sustained.
Yep.
And you can, if you want to use a hit dice or 2. While taking the short rest, you notice that the air on the other side of the rock cave-in
Let's do that again. Sorry.
was just as musty and earthy as the air when you initially fell in here.
Okay. So we should continue on carefully.
Okay. So after a couple hours, you guys kind of rise and you see the pile of rocks.
Who wants to go first?
I'll climb over first.
All right.
So I just climb like over this part.
Okay. So you do, no rolls necessary. You just kind of carefully, when you get to the top, you have to go really low and kind of climb over and then almost belly slide down, but you get to the other side. There's a little bit of like rock fall and dirt and stuff as you're doing that, but nothing structurally that you'd be worried about.
Okay, time to wedge my 9-foot body through this hole. I'll do the same thing. Where I
Okay.
just crawl.
Yours is a little bit of a tighter fit
Yes.
and more rubble comes along, but nothing badly structurally challenging.
All right. So we'll stay next to each other, but you go a little bit ahead?
Yeah.
'Cause you've got dark vision.
So I can see further in front of us.
So, as you kind of come around this corner, you notice that once you pass the part that caved in, that this chunk of wall similarly matches the style and the age and structure of the stonework that formed the walls in here. There are, however, more inscriptions in the stones. So like each stone has like a symbol scratched into it. And the hallway continues, but it curves in another direction. So you guys are like about here. And along this stretch of wall and that stretch of wall before the curve, before the next curve, each of the big block of stones has a symbol.
Okay.
And again, they seem to match the style of the symbols that you saw on the outside.
I just throw my hand out before we keep going. I don't know what these symbols mean, and I don't like the fact that they're all over these walls. I think maybe we should take a big piece of rock and throw it and see what happens. Because I don't think that these symbols are anything good, because this looks very ancient. And if you don't know what they mean, and I don't know what they mean,
Yes.
okay,
We could try that, see.
okay,
There has to be something down here.
I'll go back to the pile and find a sizable piece of rock that I can carry.
Very easy to do.
All right.
There are a lot of them.
Yes. I'll take the biggest one that I can carry, and then
Mhm.
I'll come back, and I'm just gonna throw it into the middle of the.
Point to where you want it to land.
I want it to land somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Okay.
Nothing happens.
I think we should continue, but continue with caution.
All right. So we just go stealthily with caution?
Yes.
Alright.
So
Super bad
you
idea.
you walk past these stones, and you get to a corner. There's a bit more of a cave in here with some rubble, and then you get to another opening, and the other opening. You know what? I'm going to cheat this way, just so that everybody can see it. My beautiful handiwork. The other opening does not have a cave-in, and this chamber appears to be, you know, kind of as you come around the corner, this appears to be a much bigger room, and there's a lot of stuff in it.
I'm scared.
Lots of stuff.
Everything in this chamber is a mimic.
Now, I don't have enough of these, so I'm just going to put them out to give you an approximation, okay? But I want you to imagine that what you see are long, rectangular
Maybe I was correct.
boxes.
Maybe it sounds like coffins.
My specialty.
And there are 9 of them.
Sounds
And
like
situated all around the room are a series of pillars, not structural pillars like the ones that you saw before, but kind of like freestanding statue kind of pillars. And they all look different. They all have different etching and symbols around them. Oh, let's see. How about
It's not frightening at all.
that one? So you see that throughout this room are scattered and not scattered, I should say that each of these are the same size. They're all the same size, even though these chests that I'm using to represent them are not the same size, but they're all about the same size of these rectangular stone boxes. And they're very uniformly lined up in the room, like very intentionally. And to your surprise, this area structurally, like the roof doesn't have any cave-ins. It's all like it's a domed ceiling, not as high as that 40-foot ceiling. This is more like a 20-foot domed ceiling, but there's no cave-ins. There are, however, some cave-ins around the corners of the room. So you notice like on the south side of the room, there's a significant collapse in the wall structure where soil poured in. There's some roots in there growing through, and then just little periodically like around the walls where like a stone cracked and gave way and, you know, fell down and over time eroded.
Okay.
So that's what you see.
All right.
And I should mention that from where you are now, you can see that each of these kind of freestanding pillars has more of those inscriptions that you are not familiar with, but they bear a similar style. And in some cases, you've seen repetition in some of those symbols. I would say hieroglyphs, but they're not really like hieroglyphs. If you combined like pictograms or hieroglyphs with runes, that's kind of more what it reminds you of.
Alright. Should we examine each of the statues one by one? Because I don't think that we should touch any of those boxes.
Yes, those don't seem like something that would be holding treasure. It seems more like a corpse box.
Either one of you make a history check.
9.
10.
So when you mention corpse box, although it's not wooden, it does bear the shape of a coffin. But these in fact seem to be stone with a flat stone slab as a lid.
Okay.
So I do agree. Let's continue along the wall and see if we can get anything from these statues. And if not, then I do think we should examine at least one of these boxes with caution.
Okay. So which way are we going?
Probably like counterclockwise.
Okay. Go ahead and make investigation rolls. So you kind of go in for closer looks, and as you're examining these pillars, it seems that they're very... What'd you get?
18.
6.
Okay. So the pillars seem to have kind of like a little bit of an element of sculpture to them. So there's some symbols there that you see that you're not necessarily familiar with, in addition to the rune pictograph kind of writing. But as you approach the first one, there's a very recognizable visage carved into the stone of the pillar. And it seems to be that of what you consider to be like a human man with hair and a beard.
Okay. Do we want to look at the next one?
Yeah. We should compare them all first, see if we can learn anything more about what this room might be for.
Okay.
The next one you notice seems to have a symbol that looks kind of like a fork or a trident. It has like an icon that comes up and splits off, and there's kind of 3 directions.
Alright. Next one.
At this column, you notice a very primitive, like carving, almost like of a female body, basically. Like, but there is not a lot of details. There isn't like a face. It's almost like if you carved the primitive outline of like a female body.
Okay. Next one.
The next one you notice is what looks like a pyramid, and above the pyramid is an eye.
Okay.
The next one you notice looks like a ring, like a circle, and there seem to be flames above it.
Okay. And the last one?
The last one you notice is basically one head with 2 faces. So it's like, imagine like a picture of a face, but like with profiles. So like one face is this way, one face is that way.
Okay. Does there look like anything to interact with on any of them? Like something to put somewhere or touch or something? Or are they just like flat statues?
Well, so they're not, to be clear, they're not statues. They're pillars
Yeah.
that all look like they were of the same construction as the pillars that you saw, but they're not structural. They're not holding anything up.
Yeah.
So they're like 10-foot tall pillars.
Mhm.
But carved into the pillars are the symbols that I described, and then more of those runes or pictographs that you guys had seen along the walls there.
Okay. Do you think this might be related to the deities?
Could it be?
Make a religion roll.
Here we go. 5.
14.
Neither one of you feel like you've ever seen anything like this related to any of the deities of New Wolfomai.
Okay. What about on the walls back there? Are there a certain order, do you think, that those symbols went in? we could go look at them again.
Make a perception roll, both of you.
13.
7.
You notice that, everything is covered in dust. Like thick dust, like this has not been opened in who knows how long. But as you're kind of gesturing back down the hallway towards those symbols, you notice like on one of the closer boxes near you that there are also inscriptions, also pictograms.
I'll point them out to you and see. Should we compare some of these on the boxes to the ones on the statues?
Yes.
You immediately notice that even though there are different inscriptions on each one of these stone, let's just be honest, sarcophagi, you notice that there's one that repeats throughout, and it's that trident symbol. So they all have different runes, but all of them have that trident symbol.
Which one was the one with the trident, wasn't it?
The one with the trident was the second one.
So I think we should go back over to the second one.
Okay,
How tall are the pillars?
10 feet.
Oh, so I can reach.
Yeah. And like I said, they're freestanding.
Yeah.
They're not holding up anything. They're not structural.
Is it possible we could place something on one of these pillars?
Maybe. There might be something in the boxes other than dead bodies.
Yes, I think it might be our duty to at least check inside.
Okay, which one are we checking inside of?
Let's check the one closest to the door first, so
Right.
we have more space.
Okay. So you go over to the stone sarcophagus. Like all the others, it has a thick stone slab that seals the top of it.
Does it have any other runes on it that match any of the other ones, or just the trident one?
There are, on the exterior, no.
Alright.
The only symbol that matches is that of the trident.
Would you like me to open it up?
Yes.
Alright, I'll just take the slab and try to remove it.
You have any tools to help you with that? So basically there's no, like, you could try to slide the stone off, but unless you have something to pry it open with, you're going to have a hard time.
I don't think I have anything to pry it open with.
Okay.
Would your sword work? To pry it? I don't know.
I don't think. If I jab my sword, yeah, I want to try to get my sword in between the slabs. To at
Okay.
least-
You can. You start to kind of lift for leverage, and you see your sword actually bending a little bit, and you're like,
That's what I
this is
figured.
going to snap.
That's what I figured.
You feel like maybe a crowbar could help if you had one, because it would give you some more leverage. But you can, if you want to make, I'll let you guys try to make a strength check without the crowbar if you want.
Do you think the people back up at the top have a crowbar? There's no shame in asking.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you want, I could go back down and try to shout up to them.
Sure.
Okay. So you go,
Yeah.
crawl up, you go back up, you shout up. Moment later, you see a head appear. Yes, are you there? Is everything okay? Are you both well?
We are fine, but we are having some trouble figuring out what is down here. If you have any, do you have any tools that you could lift? Something like a crowbar or metal rod that we could
Yes.
use?
I will send it down. Give us a moment.
I'll back up from the hole.
So about 5 minutes later, you see a second rope being lowered,
That's smart.
and it's basically tied around a box. So when it gets down on the ground, you open it up. The box has, it's like a long wooden box. It's a toolbox, and it's got like a crowbar. It's got some metal pythons. It's got a hammer, a mallet. It's got a smaller chisel and a small pick.
So I just want to take the crowbar and the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Or just take the whole box.
Do you want to just take the box?
Yeah,
I could
I mean-
carry
It's
the
not that
box
big.
over.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
grab the box, crawl back over. You make your way back to where Arya was, and you notice she's gone. JK.
Oh.
I like to mess with people. All right. So Arya's there, and you come back with the toolbox. So now, how do you open this?
Yeah, the crowbar.
Okay.
Do you want me to help lift while you jam the crowbar in?
Yes, that's what we were looking for. So, who has the best strength and athletics roll?
I have a +3 to strength, and you have a +3 to strength. So
But
Do
what
either
is
of
it?
you have proficiency in
I have
athletics?
proficiency
I
in
do too.
athletics. Oh, we
Okay.
both do?
So then this will be a help action. So it
Okay.
means one of you is going to roll with advantage, and that's both of you helping. So like one of you
Yeah.
would have the crowbar, the other's maybe got the other side and is going to leverage that to kind of slide and lift.
Alright.
So one person makes a
Who's
roll
rolling?
with
All right,
advantage.
you'll do the advantage roll.
Oh, jeez. Alright, athletics. Here we go.
That's pretty good.
And. Or no, I just roll it twice.
Okay.
19 plus 6.
19 or
25.
17. 25 is enough. So the two of you
Nice.
jam this thing in, and you're using like every ounce of strength, and at first nothing's happening, and then finally you feel something like a pop, and it's like this thing hasn't been moved in a long time, and then you're scraping and lifting and scraping, and you kind of get it slid over, and you get half of the lid opened up, and you have to stop. You're like dripping sweat. Your arms feel like rubber. It took all of your strength just to get that much off. That's how thick this slab is. It's like a 3-inch thick slab of stone. But you can see more than well enough into what is in here. And it is, in fact, a sarcophagus. Laying in the basin of the stone sarcophagus, you see a skeleton dressed in armor, holding a trident like this, like basically buried instead of like with his hands in prayers, like with the trident. You also notice a small, what looks like maybe a ceremonial dagger near his side. Roll investigation.
6. I don't notice nothing.
10.
Okay. You're enthralled with this image of this long dead body, and at a certain point, Capella, you notice that there's just under where the helmet sits on the skull, or on what this head would have been, you notice there's a hole in the skull. A very clean, I don't want to say surgical, but definitely a piercing type hole. It's not cracked. It looks like it was a direct piercing into the skull.
That doesn't seem natural. I think I want to try to remove the helmet.
Okay, you do. You pull the helmet off, and you notice now that, in fact, on the other side of the skull, you could see where the crack came through, and it looks like some small item pierced the skull.
So,
I want to open one more just to see if they're all the same soldiers.
Okay.
yeah, we could attempt to maybe open the one that's closest to the trident statue.
Okay. Same techniques
Yep.
Yeah.
with the crowbars and the. All right. So you guys, go ahead. Someone make a roll with advantage.
17 plus 6, 4. So 17 plus 6, 23.
You're killing it with your lifting skills today.
Goliath.
So you guys, once again, this time, having done it the first time, you kind of get your communication skills and your teamwork down a little better. you get that initial pop, and then you lift and slide, you get a little bit more off, and almost exactly the same thing. Not quite, but almost exactly the same thing. Another body, basically all that's left is a skeleton, in armor, helmet, trident, little sacrificial ceremonial kind of dagger thing that you see at the side. And again, almost at exactly the same spot, maybe, not quite the same, but basically up there, another piercing hole.
Okay. So I'm assuming these are all the same thing.
It would seem so. I don't think it's worth our time to check every one. There has to be something else we can do down here, especially, I would assume whatever this trident means. If they have tridents, so it might be something relating to what weapon or what their allegiance is to, but if the trident is down here, then why are there also all these other symbols?
We could go back in the hallway and check all the symbols on the walls. Just see what they are.
Yes, I suppose.
Okay. We'll go back into this hallway. All the symbols were.
What other racial abilities you have as a Goliath?
Racial abilities?
The one that you just used was the one that you soak up damage with, but
Yes.
what other Goliath racial abilities do you have?
The only other one I have is powerful build, which I count as one size larger when determining push or carrying capacity.
Oh,
I don't think
Okay.
I have any other racial abilities.
well, okay, I just want to make sure. All right, so you guys, you go back out to the hall,
Unnerves me. Yes.
and you were looking at the symbols,
yes.
okay? In fact, you notice some of the pictograms are similar to some of the symbols that you saw on these pillars,
Mhm.
but they're different in a sense because they're more like a pictogram.
Mhm.
So, for example, the trident, that was very clearly like a weapon, a trident. Out there you see a similar symbol, but it looks more like the letter Y with an extra line going up. You're not sure if that relates. You also notice that there's a few circular, kind of like an O letter, that have spikes on the top, which is similar to, but not quite the same as, the circle with the flames above it that you saw in the other pillar. So there, you see some similarity, but you're still like, I've never seen anything like this.
Okay. Are they in any specific order along the wall?
There's an order, oh yeah, but it would be like if you were trying to read, Sanskrit. Like if you don't know how to read it, you see repetition. Like this is clearly language. This is clearly writing, because after a while you see repetition of certain runes and letters and pictograms, but you still don't know what it means.
I think we should do at least something. We came all the way down here. We've spent at least hours down here doing this. We should at least attempt to interact some way with that pillar. If we set something on it or move it.
But what would we put on it?
Maybe a trident. I don't know exactly.
I mean, I have one last trick up my sleeve if we really want to use it. I can speak with dead. And I don't know if that would work. We could try it, I guess. If we really don't know what to do.
It would be. May at least help us with the situation we're in now.
Okay. Well, we gotta figure out what we're gonna say. Because if I'm correct, you can ask it 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to think what we would ask it.
I'm sure if they were buried down here, they know what these symbols mean.
Okay. So what are we gonna ask it? What the symbol? Why are they down here?
Yeah. They would know what kind of room this is. What?
Okay.
Keep thinking.
So why are they down here?
Why are they down
What
here?
are these symbols? Or what do these symbols mean?
Yes. Like why they bear the trident.
Mean. How do we get out of here?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Here. That's 3 questions. We have 2 more. Who are you?
How did they die, maybe?
Yes. Okay.
Now, just to be clear,
Yes.
Jenny, why don't you grab the player's handbook and look up the spell, because there's some specific things about what the dead do and do not know,
Yes.
and we want to make sure that we're as accurate as possible with how this spell works.
Yeah.
So, for the benefit of everyone at home, Jordan, maybe
Yes.
read the spell description aloud.
Yes. Let me find it really quickly. Speak with dead. All right. For anyone following at home, it's page 277 of the player's handbook.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, speak with dead. You grant the semblance of life and intelligence to a corpse of your choice within range, allowing it to answer the questions you pose. The corpse must still have a mouth and can't be undead. The spell fails if the corpse was the target of this spell within the last 10 days. Till the spell ends, you can ask the corpse up to 5 questions. The corpse knows only what it knew in life, including the languages it knew. Answers are usually brief, cryptic, or repetitive, and the corpse is under no compulsion to offer a truthful answer if you are hostile or it recognizes you as an enemy. The spell doesn't return the creature's soul to its body, only animating its spirit. Thus, the corpse can't learn new information, doesn't comprehend anything that has happened since it died, and can't speculate about future events.
See, that's important.
Yeah.
It's not an all-knowing ghost.
Yeah.
Read that last part one more time.
Up to what part?
I don't know.
This
Surprise me.
surprise you. Alright. Until the spell ends, you can ask the corpse up to 5 questions. The corpse knows only what it knew in life, including the languages it knew. Answers are usually brief, cryptic, or repetitive, and the corpse is under no compulsion to offer a truthful answer if you are hostile or it recognizes you as an enemy. The spell doesn't return the creature's soul to its body, only animating its spirit. Thus, the corpse can't learn new information, doesn't comprehend anything that has happened since it died, and can't speculate about future events.
Excellent.
We're gonna get no information out of this, but it's worth a shot.
Otherwise, we're just gonna.
Otherwise, we're just gonna start throwing things.
I'm literally just gonna knock the pillar over if this is alright.
So we're gonna do it?
Yeah, it
Worth a
seems
shot.
we could at least try.
Throw up on the spell
Might have
slot.
some information of some sort.
Yeah, we can at least ask it what the symbols mean. Because it may, I don't know. Okay, which one are we gonna go to? The first one that we opened?
How about this dude that's closer to the
This
thing,
dude?
so
Alright.
who knows?
Okay.
One skelly boy.
Alright, do you want to do the talking or do you want me to do the talking?
You're the
So
one
you're
speaking
you're
with
talking to
dead.
the one,
Yeah.
the second sarcophagus that you opened that's closest to the trident symbol.
Yes.
Okay. Just gotta make sure.
Gotta make sure you know it's
So you're casting the spell,
Yes.
which means
Means
you're
I'm
asking the
talking.
questions,
Alright.
which you would concur one at a time,
Yes.
and then you'd have a response. So it's good to prepare, just as a side note, if you're casting the spell, it's good to prepare a list of questions in advance, but you're not compelled to use all those.
Yeah.
So depending on a response from the dead, you could change your
Yep.
your question,
We could. Alright, I'm gonna
which
write
is
down
just,
my
you know,
joke.
just a little thing to think about.
Alright. Well, I can do
Okay,
the answers.
the
Alright.
dead are ready to answer you.
Oh, okay. So I cast a spell. And I say, why are you down here?
The corpse doesn't move for a moment, and then it kind of like shudders, and somehow its jawbone like moves in a semblance of an attempt at speech. And even though there's no organs, you're hearing this through the power of magic, but it doesn't have eyeballs, it's just got eye sockets, you know. but it kind of shudders and then its jaw moves and it responds to you. We are the loyal servants of Shaes Joel.
Okay. And then, how did you die?
We died in battle against forces of darkness.
Say, what do these symbols mean? I'll point to the statues.
They are the symbols of the gods.
Sorry, I got 2 more questions. Who are your gods?
We serve Shaes Joel. But we honor the greater gods. Yasik Hog, Peshwick, Shatri, and Upai Vasei Hoof.
Alright, and then the last question I'll ask is, how do we get out of here?
You will let us rest in nice days without further interruption.
Okay. That's all 5 questions.
The corpse's jaw just falls back into place, sinks into the basin of the sarcophagus.
Alright, so that was only vaguely helpful. So,
We do know the name of what it is. They do probably resemble some gods.
alright. So I'm assuming Shaes Joel is probably the trident because they all seem to resemble the same. And then the rest of them are the greater gods, maybe?
Yes, because didn't he said about 5 names or so?
You said 3 other names besides, so 4 in total. Okay. Yeah.
And is it possible one of these doesn't belong here?
Well, it'd be 2 of them then, because there's 6
There's
pillars, 4 names. Do we just start messing with the statues now? Because they said the way to get out of here is to let them rest without interruption.
I mean, at any point we could just go and leave, but I just hate to see a waste of this time. There has to be something more down here, doesn't there?
I guess. What should we do?
What if we try to figure out which gods he didn't list, and we knock over those pillars?
We have no idea.
Well, we can assume that the trident one is there, and we saw the circle with like fire on the wall, so that should probably be there.
Okay.
And that means there has to be one more that
There's 4 in total that the thing said.
So
Do you want to go check if there's any symbols out there that aren't on these pillars?
Yeah.
All
You
right,
do,
go
and there are a lot.
All right.
There are about 10 more.
Mm-hmm. But are all the symbols that are on those statues somewhere on the wall?
Yep.
All right. So that's not helpful. I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh.
There's probably something to be put on some of these pillars.
That's also possible. So we have one that's like a man, one that's like a woman, one that's like
Yeah.
2 faces.
One that's a pyramid with an eye, one that's a ring with a circle and flames, and one that's a trident. We could just go start putting stuff on the pillars.
Yeah.
You hear something coming from that hallway.
Boy. Alright. Well, I'm assuming we must go check it
You
out.
see a slight flicker, like as if there's lantern or torch light coming.
Alright. We'll go back into this hallway.
Okay. As you guys come around the corner, you see Medvin.
Medvin!
He has a torch, and he has like a short sword, and he's like, "Are you okay? What's going on? What is this place? Looks very ancient."
We don't know. We can't figure out what. This is clearly some ancient race or civilization. Because we were in the other room talking through magic, with one of the bodies in that room, and apparently they serve some greater gods. I've never heard of them.
Are you sure? I thought you were some kind of priestess of.
I am, but
Of
these
Ayotte.
these are gods that I've never heard of, and I'll tell them all the names that I wrote down. I don't know.
You
how to
tell 'em.
pronounce them. I tell them, and
He's like, I too have never heard of these gods.
yeah, this seems like a very, very ancient place, and
I wonder if perhaps the monks at Kadimki-Kala, they are learned and they maintain a vast wealth of knowledge. Perhaps they would know of such things.
they might.
I'm not sure if my brother John would be of much help, for he has not had access to any temples or libraries in his youth.
Mm-hmm. Well,
He looks beyond you guys and he's like, "So what?" He's like, "Are those coffins?"
yes, of sorts. They have bodies in them of soldiers. All died the same way. All died a long time ago.
May Ayotte grant them rest. This place is somewhat fearful.
Well, it doesn't look like anything's getting out anytime soon. We could continue on to Kadimki-Kala and ask them what they know about this place. Because there's no exits on that side. In that area. There's just these statues.
He like peeks around the corner and just like kind of holds his torch in and looks. He's like, I do not wish to disturb this place. I will go climb the rope and wait for you when you are ready.
Okay.
He goes. You hear him climbing back up.
Alright.
I only had one last idea, but it may not be a good one.
What?
So, I don't know much about the gods, but I did notice there was one that had symbols pertaining to flame.
Mm-hmm.
So if the stone, the tear, is related to flame, we could attempt to place it on the pillar. If nothing happens, fine.
I guess so. Either nothing's gonna happen or we're gonna wake up every single soldier in this tomb.
Sure.
Alright. I don't see why not. I don't think there's anything else that we can figure out from not knowing this language at all.
I guess that seems like the only.
If you want to do it, do it.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try. I just want to take the tear and just place it on the top of that pillar.
Are you letting it go, or are you just holding it there?
Too late.
Yeah.
So you go over to the pillar with the symbol that had the ring with the fire.
Yeah.
You put it up there, nothing happens. And then you're like, wait, it's still there. Still there.
Alright. Just pick it up,
Yeah.
take it.
Take it back off then. I tried.
Yeah, I don't. Can I cast Detect Magic at first level and just look around the room and see if anything in here is magical?
Absolutely.
There we go. Alright. Is there anything magical?
Yeah. Every coffin has something magical, and it's the same thing. How long does that spell last?
Can you give me a Thursday look, please? Let's check.
Remember that you've only uncorked 2
Yes.
of the sarcophagi. 2 of the 9.
Uncorked for a stone.
And I'm not sure if Detect Magic works through 3-inch slab of stone.
Right, let's check.
So, while we're waiting for Jordan to look that spell up, let me just assure you, sometimes people are like, hey, Bill, you should have known this or that about a spell. No, I shouldn't have. You know why? Because I'm not the one casting it. So as a DM, it's my policy that everybody knows their own crap,
Sure.
which is great. And then when I play, I know my own crap.
Okay.
So what is your crap?
Alright, for the duration you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet. If you sense magic in this way, you can use your action to see a faint aura around any object or creature in the area that bears magic, and you learn its school of magic, if any. This spell can penetrate most barriers, but it is blocked by 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt.
Wow, a foot. Well, this is not a foot thick. So all 9 of the sarcophagi have magic
Right.
of the school of enchantment.
Enchantment, alright.
And as you approach further towards either of the 2 that you've opened, you notice that that little ceremonial dagger-looking thing that was at the side of each soldier, that's what's emanating magic.
Alright. Can I pick up one of the daggers?
Yep.
And look at it?
You sure can.
Alright.
It doesn't look like any metal you've ever seen. It's a dull gray metal.
Does it have any symbols on it?
It does.
What symbol?
It has... Hold on. It has 5 runes on it.
Okay.
5 runes. And when you go over the other one, that one has 5 runes on the handle, not on the blade, because when you take the scabbard off, you notice that these blades are more circular in nature, like a pick,
Okay.
and not flat like a dagger blade.
Alright.
And each one of them on the handle has this.
Do they have the same
And
5 symbols?
It's full tang, so that same gray metal that the blade is made out of goes all the way to the handle.
Okay.
There's no leather wrapping around it. It's like literally a solid metal spike,
Mhm.
basically.
Okay. And they have the same 5 symbols on each of them?
Mhm. Both of them.
Alright.
Now, if you wanted to,
Yeah.
hustle through and open up each one of these, you're pretty confident that that same magic emanating through all of it would have the same effect.
I think maybe since we've already opened 2 of these daggers do seem to be the only thing that could relate something to these things. So if we brought these daggers to somewhere where they might know more, that's
Or
possible.
can I pick up one of the daggers and just not actually put it to the skull, but does it look like it'll...
Yes,
it would
Jordan, you
fit?
gain an inspiration
Yes,
point.
Thank you. When you said
This
it
is
would pick
exactly
up,
the
yeah.
same diameter as the hole in the skull. And you're quite confident that, based on the 2 that you've already opened up, that these daggers or spikes must have had some more ceremonial purpose, because they don't look, you could use them as weapons, but they're not like normal daggers. They're not.
All right. So should we try to put it in the head and see what happens just to one of them? All right. I'm just gonna slowly put the
It fits
into its
as
head.
if it was the thing that did it, and there's nothing happens.
All right.
I think
I'll pull it back out.
we should just take the daggers to PacNW and see if they may know more about this.
Do we want to try putting one of these on the statue? See if anything happens?
Sure.
Okay. I'll just pick up this dagger and I'm just gonna put it on the statue.
Nothing happens.
Alright. I'll take it off.
Just out of curiosity, do you want to try that on all the statues?
Yeah.
Nothing happens.
Alright.
The metal is unlike anything that you've ever seen. It doesn't look like iron, steel, bronze. It's a dull gray color with kind of a greenish tint.
Alright.
Maybe we could just each put one in our backpacks and save it for when we can learn more about this.
Okay, we're just leaving this place then?
I have run out of ideas of what else it may hold.
Alright. I mean, we can take them and then block back up the entrance on our way out. Just so whatever's in here stays in here, I guess.
That is true. Okay. So
Alright, so we'll each take one of the daggers
Okay.
and then go back the way we came and block up the entrance again.
Okay. Several hours later, you crawl your weary selves back up the rope with the help of Medvin and John, who, by now, it is almost dark. They have, about 30 feet away, have made a camp. A couple tents are set up. The rest of the family's there. Your horses, everybody's seemed to be there. And they're all curious about what you found, and they're just serving up dinner, and they give you they've collected some clean water from a nearby stream for you to wash with. And so you guys kind of clean yourselves up, and you have dinner, and you're chatting with them and stuff. And nightfall comes. You guys take normal watches, and everybody gets their long rest relatively uninterrupted. And the dawn comes. It is a new day. And that is where we will end this episode of The B Team with Jennie and Jordan. Thank you for watching, for subscribing, for liking. Stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see what they encounter along the way.